Thomas Lindström, you are the VD or the Managing Director of the Carlyle Group in the Nordic countries, and you have done a number of opportunistic investments in both the Swedish and the Danish market. What perspectives do you consider that the Nordic countries offer for a big international asset manager?
I think the most important thing, if I speak about First Nordic as a whole, I think it offers good opportunities to do business in markets that are very mature. It's easy to do business. It's relatively speaking low transaction costs. And most important of all, I would say, is that the Nordic economies are very stable. Everything is functioning in a very stable way, so you can focus a lot on your asset deals, and you don't have to worry too much about what is happening in the surroundings, so to speak, in the different. But within the Nordics, the countries differ, of course, a little bit among themselves. Where, for instance, Sweden is interesting because of the very high liquidity in the market. I would say it's always interesting for an international investor to know that if you want to sell your assets, there's a lot of liquidity, and Sweden has a fantastic depth when it comes to the number of investors and different types of investors. So it works in both in good times and bad. I mean, during the peak years here, we had a lot of international investors that came in. Now we still do a lot of transaction. Last year, for instance, but then it was more the institutional investors, the domestic institutional investors who did a lot of transactions. So there's always a high liquidity in that market.
If you look at the Swedish market, what are the biggest or the best opportunities right now?
I guess it depends a little bit upon where you have your best market knowledge, perhaps. But I think it's always interesting to do investments in the Stockholm area. To be honest, it's kind of not that exciting answer, but the Stockholm region is still growing so fast, both in terms of people, job opportunities, etc. So there's a constant increasing demand for office space, for residential space. So that is what I'm focusing on in Sweden right now. Development potential possibilities in the Stockholm area, which is a fast-growing region.
If you should mention one thing that is the biggest barrier to go into the other Nordic countries, is that the lack of liquidity?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you take Finland as an example, the liquidity is extremely low there. We have done investments there, so we are active. We have done a couple of investments. We have some 2.5 billion Swedish kroners of investments there. And we have also done investments in Denmark. Denmark, we think, is interesting right now, maybe for some negative reasons, but you have a lot of situations where the banks need to sell assets. Banks are already sitting on assets. They need to sell. They need to come out of difficult situations, and we see a lot of opportunities in Denmark specifically. So I mean, there's a possibility that we will do actually a deal in Denmark for the coming year, and yeah.
Would that be in a specific sector, or what are you looking at?
I think there it will be very opportunistically driven, and as financing is a scarce resource, generally speaking, in the world right now. What is interesting with the Danish market is that you can find deals that are where you already have a high leverage financing from a bank. You can step in with your equity and help the bank a little bit, take down the leverage a little bit, and just create a more stable structure for the bank into the future, and where you can and also, of course, work with the assets and try to create value. But you can get to very good, solid financing in the end. And that is what is attractive. But we will do that in a very opportunistic basis. So it could be office primarily, perhaps, but also in the residential or retail segments.
Thank you.
Okay.